Hi y'all, it's Ashton. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to part 2 of refurbishing the telephone chair. If you guys did not see the first video where I reupholstered the seat of the chair, go ahead and pause this video and go watch that first video. I will put the link in the description down below. If you guys don't know how to reupholster and want to watch that video, pause now. If you guys have already seen that video or already know how to reupholster, then go ahead and keep watching and we'll get to it. So I know I talked to you guys a lot in the first video about this idea that I had on painting the telephone chair. So I'm gonna kind of go into that and try to describe what's in my head. So to kind of give background on what you do when you distress a piece of furniture for those who are new on refurbishing and whatnot. When you distress a piece of furniture, you strip off the old paint, you know, sand it down if you need to, and you get it to the bare piece of wood. And then you paint it with chalky finish paint, and then once that paint is dry, you sand it down with some sandpaper, and then it shows the wood behind it. It's hard to describe, but it shows the wood behind it and it looks aged and it looks distressed. That's how you would normally distress. Now, my idea, I have never done this before, and also I have never seen it done before. Now, I tried to Google my thought or my idea, but since I've never seen it before, I don't know like what it's called or what it would be called. So I was having an issue, not an issue, but I couldn't come up with anything in my Google searches. So I honestly don't know if it's been done before, but once you guys see or hear what I'm talking about, my idea, if you have seen it done before or if you've done it before, definitely let me know in the comments down below because I would love to know. But yeah, and if this is an original idea, I claim it. But no, I'm kidding. But anyway, yeah, if you guys have heard of it before, if you've seen it done, definitely let me know because it would be cool to look it up and see, you know, previous people doing it. But anyway, so my idea, okay, so what I want to do, instead of having bare wood on the telephone chair, what I want to do is I want to take the Valspar paint that I picked out, the paint samples, and I want to randomly paint the telephone chair with these two colors, and then I am going to use a clear coat and spray paint the whole, or cover the whole thing and let it dry overnight. And that way, when I put the chalky paint on top of it and let that dry and distress it, I'm really hoping this works, but I'm hoping that when I distress the chalky paint, the two Valspar colors will show through, and so instead of like the bare wood showing through underneath the chalky paint, these colors will show through, so it'll give it like a pop of color. So if that made any sense at all, that is my idea. So it'll definitely, like, if I rambled and absolutely made no sense at all, I'm hoping it'll make more sense once I actually start painting and show you guys this works, and you guys try it out on a piece of furniture that you have. Definitely like let me know and send me pictures because I want to see, like, that would be so exciting if someone tries it out. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get started on this, and just keep your fingers crossed for me because I'm hoping my idea comes out the way I expect it to, or the way that I'm hoping that it does. So yeah, but enough rambling. Let's go ahead and get painting. And one more note. We will be painting inside this time. I usually do it on my balcony. I do live in an apartment. When I am painting big pieces of furniture, I do usually do it outside, but we are in the middle of monsoon season here in Arizona, and it heavily stormed last night. So not only is my balcony kind of damp, but I'm also afraid that if I leave it out overnight to dry, it's gonna storm again. That would just be my luck, that if I left it outside, it would totally storm again. And also I don't want to take it outside and paint it and then have to pick it up and bring it inside to dry. So we are just gonna paint it in my office and put some tarp down or whatever and just paint it in here and leave it in here. But normally I would suggest to you guys to do it outside, but you can never, yeah, Arizona weather, I love it. Sarcasm, but yeah, so we're gonna do it inside this time, but yeah, let's go ahead and get to it. All right guys, so before you're ever ready to paint something, you always want to wipe it down first. Make sure you get all the dirt and debris and dust off. So I have a bowl of warm water and dish soap. You don't ever want anything harsher than that. Dish soap will do the job perfectly. And then I just have a clean rag that I've already soaked and gotten ready to go. So I'll show you guys how I usually do it. It's really simple. You just get your rag wet and wipe it down. Alright y'all, so I'm gonna stay zoomed in so y'all can see exactly what I'm doing, and I'll just be off to the side painting. Let me go ahead and talk about Valspar paint really quick. The reason why I choose Valspar paint, at Lowe's you can choose any color that you want. It has to be Valspar, of course, but you can choose any color you want off of the paint sample wall, and you can ask for a sample of that color that you choose. And they'll make these little samples for you. I'll have to put it in the description down below because I can't remember exactly what the price is. I want to say it's like $2.50 or $2.99, but I'll double check on my receipt. And I'll put it in the description down below, and then I'll put a link to their website, to the Lowe's website, and then I'll also put a link to these brushes as well. They're 2-inch brushes and they're also short, and I'm going to be using one per color. So yeah, I'm just going to use one per color, and I'm going to do random strokes. And also guys, just want to let you know that if you guys hear a bunch of thunder in the background, we are having a monsoon, so hopefully it's not too loud. Hopefully it doesn't disrupt the video, but yeah, I called it, so so yeah. But let me go ahead and get started on this. I'm gonna make sure there's not a lot of clumpiness of the paint on the brush, and I'm basically just gonna sit here and I'm gonna do this edge in pink, and like I said, it's going to be very random, and I'm not too concerned about getting it completely covered, because if a little bit shows through, that's okay, because we do want it to look aged, we do want it to look distressed, but I just want a little bit of that color to show through when I distress it after the chalky paint is on. My God, this is hard to open. But I might go back and put a second layer on. Let me get a couple layers on here and take a look. Like I said, I've never done this before. I haven't seen it done, so this is completely an experiment, so we'll see how it goes. But like I said, I'm randomly gonna be covering. And that way, when I distress it, I could distress this edge right here. A little bit of blue is going to show through, and then a little bit of pink is going to show through. Alright y'all, so I got the whole thing painted. The whole thing's covered except for this part and the underneath. I know you guys can't see the whole thing, but I will do a little clip of the entire thing so you guys can see. And I know it looks a little like janky and like a child kind of just had his or her way with it, or like a unicorn pooped cotton candy all over it, but just stick with me here. I'm hoping it turns out. If it does not turn out, I will name this video how to not refurbish a telephone chair, and I will upload the video anyway, so then yeah, you guys can make fun of me later. But if it works out, it'll be named something normal, so yeah, you guys can watch how it turns out. So either way, stick with me. I'm gonna let this dry overnight, and in the morning we will put that top coat on there to seal it, and then once that dries, we will get that chalky paint on there. And if you guys can see here, I have paint on my forehead, and I have paint in my hair. I leaned into the telephone chair while I was painting it, while I was trying to get the inside of it. Yeah. But anyway, it's now 2 o'clock in the morning, so I'm gonna go to bed. But I'll see you guys in a couple of seconds, because that's the awesomeness of YouTube videos. Even though I have to wait several hours to get this thing done, you guys can watch it within half an hour. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a couple seconds. So we are ready to go ahead and paint this telephone chair with the chalky paint. I have already covered it with the clear lacquer finish. I wanted to record that for you guys and show you, but like I said, it's been storming like crazy here. We're in the middle of monsoon season, and every time I tried to take the camera outside to record it, it was either windy or it started to rain. So I ended up taking the telephone chair out there and then spray painting it down with the clear lacquer finish. And then literally like 20 minutes later, I had to pick it up and bring the telephone chair inside because it started to pour. And I didn't want to take my tripod and camera out on the balcony, as windy as it was, and risk the tripod falling over and breaking my camera. So I'm sorry I didn't get to record that for you guys. But basically what I did, I just spray painted the whole thing, covered all of the paint that, all the blue and pink paint that we put on there. And I just used this clear lacquer finish. That's all I did. So it was pretty simple, really. So we are going to go ahead and get started with the chalky paint. I'm going to use the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color Elephant. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll show you guys how to do it. So I'm going to start with the big one, because we're working on a big surface. And I'm just going to roll it until we're all covered. Normally the paint tray would take the excess off, but we're just going to have to work with it here. So I'm going to start in the middle, and then I'm just going to roll it so we get a nice even. And you can use the side if you can see, if you guys don't have a paint tray that has the little ridges on the side for the paint, and you do have to use Tupperware, using this side's pretty easy to take some of that excess paint off. Okay, so I got this whole thing covered, the top of it anyway. So now that it's covered, I'm gonna do a little bit of a second layer, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm going with the grain. And I remember the grain was this way, so I'm gonna make sure all my strokes are now this way. When you do it with the grain, it gives it a more natural look. And since we have paint underneath, we will probably have to do a second layer once this dries, but we'll just have to see what it looks like once it's dry. Alright y'all, so we got the first coat of paint on. I'm gonna let this sit up for about an hour and then we're gonna go ahead and get the second coat on. I covered every surface that I possibly could. Once it's completely dry and I have the second coat on and that's completely dry, I'm actually gonna flip this upside down and make sure I get the underneath of everything, and I just want to have it completely covered. And if you see here, I did go ahead and get the inside of the seats. I will get those little sections right there once I'm able to flip it on its side and get those little areas right there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we've got everything pretty much covered. Just gonna let this sit and then we'll get a second coat. So yeah. Alright y'all, so we are ready for coat 2 of the paint. I actually watched an episode of Stranger Things while I was waiting for this to dry. Have any of y'all seen that? No spoilers, because I've only watched 2 episodes, but definitely comment down below if you guys have seen that or started watching it or even seen the whole season. It's very interesting. I can't wait to see how this show turns out. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but we haven't quite figured anything out yet. We have our guesses as to what's going on, but yeah, it's definitely interesting episode, or an interesting show. But yeah, so I'm just gonna put a coat of paint over this whole entire thing, and then we're gonna sit here and let it dry for an hour. And then we'll go ahead and flip it, like I said, and get the underneath of these, and then down here in these little crevices, and make sure all of the wood is covered. And I'm really enjoying this color. It's such a beautiful color of gray. Make sure you still go with the way the grain of wood is going. You want to keep that the entire time that you're painting. Now you want to make sure when you're doing the edges that you don't have any pulling up of the paint like on the edge or dripping down the side. And with chalky paint, you honestly don't have to do like a complete second coat. As long as you just eye everything and then cover up what you missed, then you're pretty good to go, because it does a good job of covering up in the first place. And this is another reason why I want to be able to wait for it to dry and then flip it on its side, because there's so many different like angles and surfaces on this thing that I want to be able to flip it upside down and make sure that I got every single surface. You just want to keep an eye on your paint and make sure that it's not dripping or pulling up anywhere. And then if you do see some, you can just go back before it's dry and then just kind of smooth it out. Alright guys, so I'm going to be using 60 grit and 100 grit sandpaper. I like to use 2 different ones because I think it gives it depth to the distressing, and I think it makes it look a lot better. So I usually, and it's not on all places, I do it on some places. Some places I'll do the 60 in the middle, and then I'll kind of like feather it out with a 100 so it looks deeper, and then not so deep on the edges, if that makes any sense. So right now I have you zoomed in basically right here, because this is the moment of truth. This is gonna this is going to be the moment where we see if my idea is actually going to work. So I'm going to tear, I'm starting with 60. I'm going to tear this into 4 pieces. This is what I usually do. I'm going to tear it into 4 pieces and use 1 piece. And I'm doing this inside. Don't ever do what I'm doing. Listen to what I say. This should normally be done outside, but it's like midnight right now. So I'm gonna do it inside, and I just put a tarp down so I can gather up all the dust and then toss it. So yeah, don't ever do it inside unless you absolutely have to. And if you do, make sure you're safe about it. You don't want to get sawdust layered all over everything. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I'm kind of nervous about this, but let's see what it looks like. Okay, it's working. Look at that. I hope you guys can see that blue. That's exactly what I wanted. So I wanted to be able to distress it, and instead of the wood showing, I wanted the Valspar paint to show. And it is kind of digging away at the Valspar paint, so I'm gonna do the 100 grit. So I'm gonna zoom out and show you guys the whole table, and then, or the whole chair, and then I'm just gonna get to distressing. Alright, so we are done distressing, and as you saw in the previous clip, I flipped the telephone chair on all sides so I could make sure I could get every surface distressed that I wanted to. The only part that I didn't distress is up underneath the table, so nobody's gonna see that, so I didn't distress that. But every other surface I did, and I heavily distressed it because I wanted the pink and blue to show up. Normally I have hair in my mouth. Normally I would not distress it that much, but I really wanted the pink and blue to be kind of like the focal point of the chair. So now that we're done with that, what I'm going to do, I have a damp rag, very lightly damp, and I'm just going to kind of wipe down the telephone chair because I want to get all that dust off from all the distressing and sanding and whatnot. So we're going to do that. I'm going to let it dry. It shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. And then once we're done drying, then we're going to go ahead and get started on the waxing, and then we'll be done. So let me go ahead and get this wiped down so we can move on. So now that that is done, I'm gonna go ahead and let it dry. I'm gonna go grab a bite to eat, and once we're dry, we'll go ahead and get the wax on. All right, so we are ready to go ahead and get the wax on. I just got the clear Waverly Inspirations wax. I wanted to get a clear one because I didn't want to muddle any of the colors that I already have on the table. So got the clear one. I'm just going to use a rag. What I'm going to do, I want to make sure there's no hairs on it or lint on it from the dryer. Just an old rag will do. But yeah, definitely make sure there's no lint or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my finger like this. I'm going to dip it. And then I'm going to do circular motions. And I'm just going to rub it in and go back and make sure you get the excess. You don't want to leave any wax behind. You want to make sure there's no extra sitting anywhere, no clumped up, anything like that. Once it's on there and worked into the wood, into the paint and whatnot, you just want to kind of buff it. And you'll be able to tell this side's darker than this side, so you'll be able to tell where you left off in case you have to walk away for anything. If you don't like using a rag, you can definitely use one of the wax brushes. I don't like them. I've tried using one. I don't know if it's just like user error or what, but I didn't have any luck in it. I feel like I have a lot more control and whatnot with the rag. Alright, so that's it. We are done. We are finally finished with the telephone chair. I'm so excited. I love it. It's probably the best piece I've ever done that I personally like. So I'm really excited about that. It only took about 10 minutes to put the wax on to get it all rubbed in and everything. And I still have about 3/4 of the bottle left. So I can now save that for my next project. So I'm really excited about that. I thought I'd have to use the whole bottle. And a little tip for you guys, when you are rubbing the wax on, I noticed that, you know, if I put my hand here to wax over here, my fingerprints showed up, so then I had to go back and buffer it. So be really careful about where you're putting your fingers and your hands because it does show up. Other waxes I've used before, I haven't noticed that, but this is probably because it's a clear one and because it's such a big project that I wasn't really paying attention to that. But I did notice it and I got the fingerprints out, so just be mindful of that. I'm gonna let this completely dry so I can put the cushion on it and then take a picture for you guys to see the final end result. So yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so happy it's done. If you guys want to, you can like me on Facebook, Tumblr, and Instagram, all under the Refurbished Owl. And then definitely give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, if you found it useful, if you learned anything new, or if you just like the telephone chair. Definitely give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below for future projects you want me to do, or tips and tricks you want me to try, as always. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. I have a surprise, so stay tuned for my next video because I have a surprise for you guys. But yeah, I'm so happy about it. All right, bye guys.